Force yourself to be consistent. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever started something with incredible excitement, a new habit, a new goal, a new dream, only to find that a few days or weeks later, the fire faded? Of course you have. We all have. Consistency is one of those things we know we need. We say we want it, and yet it slips away from us so easily. But here's the truth. Consistency isn't about motivation. It's not about discipline. It's not even about willpower. Most people think consistency is about motivation. They believe that if they could just stay motivated, they'd be consistent. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like a wave. High one day, completely gone the next. If we rely on motivation alone, we'll find ourselves only showing up when we feel like it. And that's the problem. Feelings are unreliable. They're impacted by how much sleep we got, how someone spoke to us, how overwhelmed we feel, or even just the weather. Consistency is not about how you feel, it's about what you decide. You see, a decision is far more powerful than a mood. A decision, when made with intention, holds even when emotions shift. When you decide to be consistent, you're saying, no matter what the day brings, no matter how I feel, no matter how small the progress seems, I will show up. It's not being robotic, it's being committed. Think about it like brushing your teeth. You don't always feel like doing it, but you still do because you've decided it's part of how you take care of yourself. You've built the habit by choosing over and over to do it regardless of your emotional state. This same principle applies to anything worth building: your health, your goals, your relationships, your craft. You won't always feel inspired to write. You won't always want to go to the gym. You won't always be excited to work on your business or study for that exam. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. If every action depended on being in the right mood, most dreams would remain unfinished. And that's the truth most people don't talk about. The people we admire, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the leaders, they didn't get where they are by feeling great every day. They got there because they decided to show up even on the off days. When you strip away the noise, consistency comes down to integrity. It's about doing what you said you would do, even when no one's watching, even when it's inconvenient, even when it would be easier to skip. That's where character is built. That's where momentum starts, not in the grand gestures, but in the small, repeated choices to keep going. And yes, some days will be harder than others. That's expected. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be present, to do the thing, to follow through, even if it's not your best day. Because one honest, low energy attempt is still better than giving up entirely. Showing up at 50% is better than not showing up at all. That's what builds resilience. That's what builds trust in yourself and from others. So when you feel like quitting or skipping or waiting until you feel like it, pause. Ask yourself, what did I decide? Did I decide this matters to me? Did I commit to this goal for a reason? If the answer is yes, then act from that decision. Let your actions flow from commitment, not emotion. Let your consistency be a reflection of your values, not your moods. Because at the end of the day, feelings will pass, but the choices you make will shape your future. When we think of success or transformation, our minds often jump to big dramatic events. We imagine a single breakthrough moment, a huge leap, or a sudden surge of progress that changes everything overnight. But the truth is, that's rarely how real growth happens. In almost every case, it's the small, often invisible actions done consistently, day after day, that lead to extraordinary outcomes over time. It's easy to overlook the power of small actions because they seem insignificant in the moment. Drinking a glass of water instead of soda, waking up 10 minutes earlier, reading a few pages of a book, saying one kind word to someone, writing a single paragraph. None of these things feel monumental on their own. But when you repeat them consistently, their impact compounds. And that's where the magic is. The people who achieve meaningful success aren't the ones who do something massive once. They're the ones who do something intentional every day. It's not the person who writes for 8 hours straight once a month that finishes a book. It's the one who writes for 30 minutes every morning, even when the words don't flow easily. It's not the person who exercises for 2 hours once a week that gets fit. It's the one who moves their body a little every day, who shows up to the workout, even when it's just a walk around the block. There is something profoundly powerful about doing small things with consistency. It trains your mind to believe and follow through. It builds trust within yourself. And most importantly, it creates momentum. Momentum is what turns effort into habit and habit into identity. When you consistently take small actions toward your goal, you stop saying, I want to write a book, and you start thinking, I'm a writer. You stop saying, I'm trying to be healthy, and you start thinking, I take care of my body. This shift in identity is not about pretending, it's about proving to yourself through consistent action who you really are. What's interesting is that most people don't quit because the big goal is too far away. They quit because they underestimate the value of the small steps. They say, what's the point of writing just one paragraph? Or one healthy meal won't make a difference. But that kind of thinking ignores how all change begins. One drop doesn't fill the bucket. But without that drop, the bucket will never be full. One step doesn't finish the journey, but without that step, you'll never get anywhere. Small actions are also sustainable. Big, sudden changes require enormous energy, and that energy is hard to maintain. But small actions woven into your daily life are manageable, they're realistic, and because of that, they're repeatable. That's what matters. Consistency over intensity. A light tap on the rock every day will eventually create a crack, then a fracture, then a breakthrough. Not because of the force of a single strike, but because of the relentless rhythm of small, intentional actions over time. So if you want to build something meaningful, whether it's a career, a habit, a relationship, or a version of yourself you can be proud of, stop waiting for the perfect time, the big opportunity, or the ideal circumstances. Start with something small and do it today, then do it again tomorrow. That's how progress is made. Quietly, steadily, one step at a time. In the end, it's not the size of the action that matters most. It's the size of the commitment behind it. Keep going, keep building, because small things done consistently don't stay small. They grow into something far greater than you can imagine. Everyone has excuses. Everyone has reasons not to start, not to continue, not to finish. There's always something: too tired, too busy, too overwhelmed, not the right time. These excuses are easy to reach for because they make sense. They sound rational. They offer comfort. But comfort doesn't lead to growth. Excuses may protect us from discomfort in the short term, but they also hold us back from becoming who we're meant to be in the long term. The only thing that can consistently overpower excuses is something deeper, something rooted in purpose. That's your why. Your why is the reason you started. It's the reason you care. It's the reason you push yourself even when no one's watching and no one's clapping. And when your why is strong enough, it becomes a force greater than your excuses. Think about the times in your life when you pushed through something difficult. Maybe it was finishing a project when you were exhausted. Maybe it was showing up for someone when it wasn't convenient. Maybe it was committing to a new path even when it was uncertain and scary. You didn't push through because it was easy. You pushed through because something inside you mattered more than the discomfort. That's the power of a clear and meaningful why. It gives your effort context. It reminds you that what you're doing isn't just about today. It's about what you're building. It's about who you're becoming. When you know why something matters to you, it becomes easier to keep going. Even when the process is hard, even when the results are slow, even when you feel like quitting. But here's the catch. Your why has to be personal. It can't be borrowed. It can be something that sounds good to others but doesn't move you. You have to feel it deeply. It has to be something you can return to on the hard days and say, this is bigger than my comfort. This is worth the effort. That's what anchors you. That's what keeps you grounded when everything else tries to pull you off course. Excuses don't need your permission. They show up uninvited. They whisper in your ear when you're tired, when you fail, when things don't go your way. And if your why isn't strong enough, those excuses will sound convincing. You'll rationalize quitting. You'll call it self-care or timing or fate. But deep down, you'll know it wasn't that you couldn't, it was that you lost sight of why you started. So take the time to clarify your why. Write it down, speak it out loud, remind yourself often, because life will test you. There will be resistance, there will be setbacks. You will face moments where everything in you wants to pause, to rest, to stop. And in those moments, your purpose has to speak louder than your excuses. The truth is, you won't always feel like it. That's normal. You won't always have motivation. That's expected. But if you have a reason that truly matters to you, one that lights a fire in your chest, you'll find a way to keep going. You'll find a way to push past the noise, past the doubt, past the discomfort. Because when your why is strong enough, the how takes care of itself. At the end of the day, it's not about never making excuses. It's about having a reason so powerful, so personal, that no excuse can stand in its way. There's a dangerous illusion many of us buy into, the idea that we have to be perfect to be worthy, to succeed, or to make progress. We think if we're not doing something perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. So we wait. We wait for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, the perfect mood, the perfect version of ourselves. And while we wait for perfect, time passes, opportunities fade, momentum disappears. But perfection isn't the goal. It never was, because perfection isn't real. It's a moving target. No matter how hard you try, there will always be something you could have done better, something you missed, something someone else might judge. If you chase perfection, you'll exhaust yourself. You'll constantly feel like you're falling short. And worst of all, you'll stop showing up, but because you're incapable, but because you've convinced yourself that only flawless effort counts. The people who make an impact in this world are not perfect. They're consistent, they're dependable, they're the ones who keep showing up, especially when it's messy, when they're tired, when it's inconvenient. That's what makes them reliable, and reliability is far more valuable than perfection. When people can count on you, they begin to trust you, not because you never make mistakes, but because you're there. You follow through, you take ownership, you do what you said you would do, not just when it's easy, but also when it's hard. That's what builds integrity. That's what earns respect. You don't need to impress everyone. You just need to be someone others can depend on. That includes yourself. Being reliable means showing up on the days when you feel off. It means doing the work even when it's not your best day, when the results aren't impressive, when no one notices. It's in those moments when you could easily step away, but you choose to stay, that you build something meaningful, not just in the world, but within yourself. Because each time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you're reinforcing your identity. You're telling yourself, I'm someone who follows through. And that creates a sense of self-trust that no external validation can replace. That's how you build confidence, not by being perfect, but by being consistent, by showing up becomes who you are. Perfection is paralyzing. Reliability is empowering. When you aim to be reliable, you give yourself permission to be human. You allow space for growth. You make room for mistakes and learning from them. You create a rhythm that you can actually sustain, one that builds real momentum over time. That's how progress happens, not in perfect streaks, but in persistent steps. So the next time you're tempted to skip the workout because you don't have time for a full routine, go anyway and do what you can. The next time you feel like quitting a project because it's not turning out exactly as you envisioned, finish it anyway and improve next time. The next time you want to give up on a goal because you had an off day, remind yourself, one imperfect day doesn't define the journey. What defines you is your ability to come back, to keep going, to be someone who can be counted on, not just by others, but by yourself. Forget perfect, just be present, be honest, be steady. Because in a world obsessed with doing things flawlessly, the rarest and most powerful thing you can be is reliable. It's easy to dream. In fact, it's natural. We all have visions of what we want our lives to look like, goals we hope to achieve, careers we want to build, the kind of person we want to become. And those goals are important. They give us direction, something to strive for. But dreaming alone doesn't get us there. Wanting something deeply, even desperately, isn't enough. There's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, and what fills that gap is discipline. Discipline isn't exciting, it's not glamorous, it doesn't get much applause, but it's everything. It's the quiet force that moves us from intention to reality. It's the decision to show up not just once, not just when it's easy, but every single day, especially when it's hard. Discipline is what keeps you moving long after the initial motivation fades. Because motivation is emotional, and emotions change. Discipline is a choice. There's a reason people say discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. Without it, your goals remain just that, distant ideas. With it, those ideas become structure, routine, and eventually results. It's discipline that gets the writer to the desk, the athlete to practice, the student to the books, the entrepreneur back to the plan, even after a setback. It's not about passion in the moment. It's about commitment over time. Most of us are good at starting. We get inspired and make big declarations. This is the year I'll get in shape. This is the year I'll launch that business. This is the year I'll finally stay consistent. But then comes the middle, the ordinary, repetitive, difficult middle. That's where most goals fade. Not because people don't want it, but because they haven't built the discipline to keep showing up without seeing immediate results. Discipline isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's not about living like a machine or ignoring your needs. It's actually the opposite. It's an act of self-respect. When you're disciplined, you're saying, I care enough about my future to do what's necessary now. It's not punishment, it's protection. It protects your time, your energy, your values, and your potential from being stolen by distractions and excuses. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it builds on itself. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you're reinforcing the belief that you're capable, that you can be trusted, that you don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it. That belief creates momentum. It gives you the power to push forward, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one else is watching. You don't need to be the most talented, the smartest, or the most experienced. You just need to be the one who keeps going, the one who gets back up after failure, the one who does the small things daily because they add up to something bigger. Discipline is the ultimate equalizer. It turns ordinary people into extraordinary leaders, not overnight, but over time. So, if there's something you truly want to achieve, something meaningful, something real, don't just ask yourself what the goal is. Ask yourself what level of discipline it will require. Then build your days around that. Set the alarm, keep the promise, block the time, do the work, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. Because in the end, it's not the goals you set that shape your life. It's the discipline you practice. That's what turns vision into reality and hope into progress.